Welcome, everybody, to another off-season discussion video. Today, we're going to be talking about the Ottawa Senators, and to help me do that, we have old friend Perlo Wisdom back on the channel. Perlo, it's awesome to have you here, and great to have you talking Sens with me here tonight. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks for doing this, and you ready to talk some Ottawa Senators who have had quite the off-season?
Oh man, yeah. When you said that this was a team I could do, I was like, that's pretty cool. You couldn't get much more activity out of a team than what Ottawa did. Gotta love the balls of this team, Dory, and what they've done. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. So everybody, Perlo's channel will be linked down in the description. He covers the entire NHL. Most of you probably know that by now, but definitely show him some support. Give him a sub. He's getting close to 1K, so hopefully we can help get him there. The Ottawa Senators, what an offseason for them. Talk about a team that has been rebuilding now for the past couple of years, going out there, making some big moves, and trying to propel themselves forward into the playoff conversation. And it started on draft day with the Alex DeBrincat deal. And that kind of set the whole offseason in motion for this team. And what a deal there with Chicago pulling DeBrincat away from the Blackhawks, and they really, in my opinion, didn't have to give up as much as I thought a DeBrincat trade would return Chicago. A first, a second, and a third, and they land a young player who's already had two 40-goal seasons in the NHL. Talk about a boost to the offense.
Yes, absolutely, no doubt about that. And I did a DeBrincat trade video because I like to do those.
Yep.
Ottawa was my second team on that video. And the return I had was higher for sure,
Yeah.
no doubt about that. The one thing that I didn't take into consideration, and I'm learning about all this, is DeBrincat probably had told Chicago they weren't going to sign there. So
Hmm.
I never took into consideration that probably DeBrincat only had a couple teams he would sign with, which really almost nowadays, these young players almost are like free agents when they're restricted because they can say, hey, I'm not going to re-sign with you. So a
Yeah.
lot of teams are going to go, well, I'm not trading for the guy if he's not going to re-sign with us,
Hmm.
which leads me to believe that he will re-sign with Ottawa. And
Yeah.
if that's the case, they smoked this. Now, this Kaczynski, I think his name for Chicago, I've heard a lot of great things of him about it as a defenseman. And for Ottawa, they didn't need a first round pick this year,
Yeah.
right? So I think they just went. I mean, this DeBrincat could score 50.
Yeah.
He's only 24 years old. He's already a 40-goal scorer.
Yeah.
If he's a 50-goal scorer, they just knocked this right out of the park. Like, this was a beautiful move.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Ottawa nailed this. DeBrincat is still, Ottawa is a young team, and he still fits into that age bracket of the kind of guys that they want to be bringing in there. And for somebody that young to already have two 40-goal seasons, you don't see that very often with players still, in their early 20s who haven't even hit 25 yet. So that move, I think, just sets him up for a great future in Ottawa, not just this coming season, but a long-term future with the Senators that could be a very good one for all involved, for sure. And the other one of the other big moves that Ottawa made was Claude Giroux coming in from Philadelphia, then Florida, now Ottawa. And
Mhm.
they got Giroux on what I think is almost like the perfect contract for where he's at in his career. The cap hit is reasonable. It's only a 3-year deal, so it's not like they were locking him up for 5 or 6 years or something like that. 3 years, 6.5 million per season. Giroux, I still think, can be a 70-point player. And maybe even push back up towards the point per game, depending on who he's playing with. And a veteran guy who's obviously, been in the league a long time, has had a leadership role for a long time in the NHL. What a great add to that locker room and also to that top six of just more offensive talent that is going to produce for this team.
Yeah, and I mean, from all accounts, because you know me, Philadelphia is one of my teams in the East.
Yep.
Claude Giroux is one of the best conditioned athletes in the NHL too. They talk about it all the time. He's in amazing condition, up there with like the Yarmer Yagers of the world. He's just crazy. So there's a really good chance he's going to be fine throughout this whole contract. He's from the area, so there's that feel good story there, which is going to bring people to the seats in Ottawa, which they need. There's nothing, I love the move. I can't say anything bad about it all, just like you. And the only question is, imagine if Giroux plays with DeBrincat? He's one of the best playmakers in the league, feeding this guy. Oh my gosh. They have him on cap friendly playing with Brady, and that's fine. But I mean, they could go so many different ways with this roster now, the way they've set it up, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think, looking at this forward group in particular, there's so much mixing and matching as far as who they can play with who with this team, where I don't even know. I think they're going to have to search around a little bit to try and find what the right combinations are. And I think they're going to have such flexibility as far as mixing their line combos up. Like, if that team goes into a little bit of a slump or has a couple bad games, you're going to see them not be afraid to mix those lines up. And there are so many, you can play Stützle with so many different guys. You can play Batherson with different guys. You can play Giroux with different guys. Like, there's so much mixing and matching to be done there that I think it's going to almost be kind of a fluid line combo situation where they're just going to be trying to find the right people to put together.
Yeah, I like if you're doing fantasy draft, I'll tell you, Tim Stützle all the way around. I'm all over that. I hope everybody forgets about him because I think he's going to do some crazy things with, either Giroux or DeBrincat or Batherson or DeBrincat. I mean, he is about 20 years old. He already put up almost was it 58-point season at 19 years old, and now he's going to have this lineup at 20. Wow, that is spinning view. That top six is some of the best in the league already.
Oh, 100%. This is a team that's getting talked about a lot this offseason, and rightfully so, because, when you look at teams that could make huge jumps this coming year, I think Ottawa is one of those teams that's being looked at as a potential big time mover from where they were last season to where they could be this coming season. And, I think the top six, and particularly their forward group, is the reason why there's so much potential for this team to have an explosive offense and probably be one of the higher scoring teams in the entire NHL.
Yeah, and when you take into consideration, like you remember last year, because of course you do your great play-by-play there. Yeah, when you did so with Ottawa, or just watching them in general, like nobody outworked this team last year. Like this was when you went into Ottawa, or if they came into your building, if Ottawa lost, you were bruised by the end of it. Like they never gave an inch to anybody. So you had this skill on top of that mentality. And I don't know, man, there's a powder keg. I haven't put my teams together about who's going to make the playoffs or not, but it's really hard. We haven't got to the defense yet, but this top nine with Formanton, Pinto, Matthew Joseph is so underrated, and it was a great, even though it was a difficult to give up. What's his name to Tampa there, who played really well in the playoffs to get
Nick Paul.
Nick Paul. It was a difficult move to make. I think they did land on their feet with getting Matthew Joseph. I really like him a lot, and that third line is, for a young third line, is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting to the defense, as you alluded to, that's kind of the one area there's not a lot of change. There's not a lot of difference with the Ottawa D. Obviously, Chabot is an absolute minutes eater, plays half the game most nights. They've got Artem Zub, who I think is fairly underrated and kind of goes under the radar as far as how solid he is. Jake Sanderson, obviously, was such a high draft pick. This is a guy that I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on this year, really looking to make a big impact in the next step in his career and become kind of a franchise type defenseman that Ottawa was hoping for when they drafted him. He's still just 20 years old, but I got to imagine that Sanderson is going to be a huge piece of this decor for this coming season.
Yeah, I'm going by the way they structured their team. I think they're banking on Sanderson playing really well
Yeah.
in this. And this year, like automatically this year. I have to say, I kind of was wondering when they did make this pick in that particular draft, there were some guys I thought they may go for instead.
Hmm.
But from all accounts I've heard, and I gotta admit, I don't get to watch college hockey. This guy is just getting better and better
Yep.
every day. And they seem extremely confident in him. So if he can play that top four role, all of a sudden this team doesn't look too shabby on the D side of things. And they have some other guys that were like the Clevin that played with
Yep.
him that coming up that also Clevin played with him, but they have him as a lefty. So one of them must have played the right side. I wonder if Sanderson can play the right side equally as well as a left. And if that's the case, they're a really good step, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. There's he when they took him, I think they were looking for more that two-way guy, as opposed to Drysdale. And I think they're banking on him being that guy that can. I'm trying to think of maybe a comparison, almost maybe Charlie McAvoy type, where he's plays all over the place. Like he's the 200-foot guy. Where I look at what McAvoy's turned into with Boston, they need him to kill penalties. They need him in the defensive zone. They need him in the neutral zone. They need him to use his skating. He has to be the guy in every way. And I kind of think that they see that role for Sanderson, where he maybe not put up as many points as a more solely offensive defenseman who put up 70 points in a season. But if he can be around 50 points and also bring really high level defense to the table, they're happy with that two-way play. And I think that's what they're hoping for from Sanderson, to kind of just be that all around D-man that they can completely build around and be that cornerstone. And Shabbat, I think, is more of the offensive guy who they're looking for 70 points from. And they can kind of take some defensive pressure off of Shabbat with a guy like Sanderson.
Well, I mean, if he can be as good as McAvoy, forget about it. This is, you're heading towards a cup contending team pretty quick. And I mean, I've heard some great things, so that's all I can say about that. Putting that to me, I'm a huge McAvoy fan. I think he's extremely underrated.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. He's got to win a Norris at least once, as far as I'm concerned, in his career. So if he can be anywhere near that, my gosh, that would be huge for them. But I think the way they didn't look like they were, I heard that they might be looking for a top six defenseman, but it didn't look like they went balls out to find one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they want to see where Sanderson's going to fit in this year before they go off and start giving assets for a player that they might already have.
Yeah, I know Ottawa's a team that's been mentioned with Jacob Chikrin's name quite a bit, but I feel like, they probably want to look first and see if that's a move that they even need to make, or is that something that they can stay away from? So we know the asking price for Chikrin is very high. And if they feel like they already have a competent defense without making that kind of move, maybe they'd rather keep the assets.
Yeah, I mean, let's say if you got Sanderson and then, Eric Brandstrom comes out a little bit this year.
Yep.
And they got their first round draft. They still have their first next year, right? Or yes, they did. First round draft pick, Brandstrom, Pinto, because, they have a lot of young guys coming up that might be able to fill that. Yep. And you pull out a Chikrin, and you've now got Chikrin, Sanderson, Shabbat. Ooh.
Yeah.
God. Crazy, but I'm not saying that would happen. But I mean, the thing that we were talking about right from the beginning here is it looks like Dorian has really left himself a lot of options with this roster.
Yeah, Oh, 100%. And they've got some really good contracts too. I thought Giroux signing there was very good cap hit, very reasonable for a 34-year-old. Drake Batherson is making less than $5 million a year, and he has 5 more years left on this deal at
Yeah.
under 5 mil. That is, I mean, that's a steal of a contract.
Yeah.
In one of their big signings this offseason was Josh Norris, who they
Yeah.
just locked up at under $8 million per season. He had 35 goals last year. He's just 23 years old. And they, 7.95 mil per year, just under 8 million a season. That might be, okay. That you might be looking at that now, like maybe that's not a huge steal. I think 2-3 years from now, that's going to be a monster steal if he becomes a player that's worth 9.5 million per year.
Yeah, if you can keep up that pace.
Yeah.
And I think you see with the teams that are really successful, this is what they do. They take risks on their young players early
Yeah.
because it can keep that cap space down later on, and you can become a cup contender for a long time. The Drake Batherson thing is ridiculous. That's going to look like just like peanuts for 3-4 years from now if he keeps on going the trajectory is. Even the Brady Tkachuk deal, to tell you the honest truth, he's only 22 years old. He scored 30 goals last year, and he's a Tkachuk. Like they bring elements to the team that you don't see on the score sheet a lot. I'd say Dorian is just knocking it out of the park with almost everything he did right now, which I imagine would be heading to the goaltending soon.
Yes, that's right here. Goaltending, quite the change as far as the net is concerned for Ottawa. Trading away Matt Murray to the Maple Leafs, getting rid of most of that contract. They did have to retain 25% of the salary, but they were able to get themselves out of most of that contract, which honestly was probably one of Dorian. I don't think has made too many mistakes over the past few years, but that contract was one of them.
Yeah.
And they also traded for Cam Talbot from Minnesota. They had to give up Philip Gustafson to bring Talbot in. They have Forsberg still there. It looks like Talbot Forsberg is going to be your tandem for this coming season. It seems like they've kind of they've got some some placeholders here. I don't think they have a franchise goalie right now. I don't think they have a guy that is going to, get up there into the Vezina conversation or be a top 5 goalie in the league. But I think they have a solid place-holding tandem in net right now with Talbot and Forsberg. And I think it might be good enough to at least keep them competitive and get them in the hunt possibly for a playoff spot.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think the reason kind of the way that Forsberg really had some stellar aspect of like games last year.
Yeah.
There was times when Forsberg looked like this could be a number 1 goaltender here. So I'm not going to put, he's 29, is one of those late blooming goaltenders. If he puts that consistently together, they could have somebody there for sure. I'm not, I don't think either one of us are huge on Talbot, but I was a little higher than you were when Minnesota picked him up. I think you were more accurate than I was in that regard there. We maybe gave him a little too much credit where you were probably bang on. But the guy that they are just apparently love is this Matt Sogard kid.
Yeah.
21-year-old, 6'8", 200 pounds,
Yep.
skinny, but getting bigger, and they love him. And I think, like you said, the placeholders, that's what they're looking down the road, is something of that nature.
Yeah, Sogard played 35 games in the AHL last year with Belleville, and solid numbers, 2.86 goals against average and a 908 save percentage. He did come up to Ottawa and play 2 games. Wasn't all that great, giving up over 3 goals a game in those 2 games, but still very, very young. I mean, 21 years old. Goaltenders generally are 23, 24, 25 before you really start to see them develop into that NHL ready player. So I still think there's a lot of upside with Sogard, and he maybe long term he is the guy. Looking at his specs, 6'8", 200 pounds, it almost feels Ben Bishop like
Yep.
with the body style. And if he could become that, maybe not Ben Bishop. I mean, Ben Bishop in his prime for Tampa was an incredibly good goaltender. Maybe he doesn't get to that level. Maybe he does, and could maybe be a long-term solution in goal. It certainly seems like the upside is there.
Yeah, whenever I hear, if I listen to Sirius Radio and they have an Ottawa representative come on or whatever, his name comes up, and like
Yeah.
they really, really are high on this kid. And which brings me to what I think might be your next thing after this is, they have done so well in draft and development in Ottawa too, and that
Yeah.
really is. They've got Bernard Docker and
Yeah.
Lassie Thompson coming up, so those are other reasons why I don't think they're too crazy on going to get another defenseman right now. They've drafted well. They have a lot of big players coming up. I mean, might be one of the best structured teams in the league right now.
Yeah, as far as a team that has gone through a rebuild and obviously has gone through some tough seasons where they haven't been very good, but it's a heck of a lot better to do what Ottawa did than be one of these teams that's stuck in the middle and just missing the playoffs every year and then not getting those high picks. And then when you do get those high picks and you do get those opportunities to build through the draft, you have to hit on those picks. And this is a team that has hit a lot and done a very good job with their drafting. If we look at guys that they've drafted that are having big impacts on their NHL roster, obviously Brady Tkachuk is the captain of the team. They drafted Drake Batherson. They drafted Tim Stützle. They drafted Alex Formenton. They drafted Thomas Chabot. This was obviously quite a while ago now, but they drafted Jake Sanderson. They drafted Shane Pinto, who had some injury issues last year, but hopefully can get, back healthy and back going in the right direction. They still have Ridley Greig, who I think is a very interesting prospect that we haven't seen NHL wise yet, but has a lot of upside potential. Had last season in the WHL with Brandon Wheat Kings, he had 63 points in 39 games and 92 penalty minutes on top of it. Very almost Ottawa type player there, the way that they're building this team with some toughness as well. There's a guy that I'm kind of excited to see. When's he going to make that jump and have an impact at the NHL level?
Yeah, and I mean, he could also be used for something, but I really think they love Greg. And then they love Greg, and like you said, they've created an identity for themselves, and that's the biggest thing I found. DJ Smith is up there with one of my favorite coaches in the league. I just love the way he runs that team. They're ready every single night. You don't see that from too many coaches in the league, where you have a team that's just ready every single night. Draft and development has been spectacular. They have lots of pieces they can trade. This team is going nowhere but up. I'm loving it. I'm a fan. I'm starting to become a big fan. I've always been a Tkachuk fan. And if Riley Gregg is going to be one of those annoying guys you got to have on your team too, more reason to cheer for him. So yeah, this is going to be an exciting team to watch this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't get pushed around by anybody. And that's one of the things over the past few years that I've noticed where, they haven't won a lot of games, but they've been a physical team. They've been engaged in every game. They've brought toughness and they don't get pushed around, and they always give a huge effort, even if they don't play all that well, even if the score isn't that going their way, they always give a huge effort. And if you can instill that, especially in a young team, when they do finally get there and they get to the point where they're they're good enough and skilled enough and talented enough to be competitive, they also have that drive and that give all effort every night kind of mentality, and they're going to stick up for each other, and they're going to beat and bang and do what it takes to win hockey games, they become a very dangerous team very fast. And I think Ottawa is not very far away from becoming a very dangerous team.
Absolutely. And what I love about them is they generally anyways, they're learning when to do it.
Yeah.
They're not putting they're less and less putting themselves in situations where they get penalty trouble and they lose the game. And certainly if you're gonna, maybe the goaltender has a rough night or they have an off day, they're gonna send a message to you that you're gonna hate coming back here. And you're gonna hate it when we come get you. You might have beat us on the score sheet, but if you have any players out there that they're afraid of taking a beating, well, you might not want to beat Ottawa next time, because if you do, you're going to take a beating.
Yeah, definitely. So I like a lot about what Ottawa's done this offseason. I really like the direction that this team is heading in, and I think they're going to be a competitive team that's going to be pushing for a playoff spot sooner rather than later.
Me as well, my friend.
All right. Well, Perlo, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the video and talk Ottawa Senators with me. Really, really appreciate it. And the floor is yours. Anything you'd like to plug? Anything going on your channel, and anything that you want to say, have at it.
Oh, I just Pearl of Wisdom. Check out the link. We do great trade stuff. Most of all, I just love talking hockey and talking about value of players, and that's what I kind of do on my channel. And don't forget that I'll be doing lives with Peyton on the radio. Peyton on the radio is really good too. I do lives with John as well come hockey season, so that'll be really exciting. And I do my own sometimes every once in a while. So sub up, and that would be great. I'd love to have you on there. We've started a pretty fun community here, and I don't get on with John too much because he's a busy beaver, but when I can, I sure do appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, John.
Yeah, of course. Everybody, Perlo's channel is linked in the description. It would definitely mean a lot if you could show him some support. And I want to say thank you to all of you for watching. Obviously, we're doing a lot of different teams, a lot of different off-season discussions. Today was the Ottawa Senators, and hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys are excited to watch some Sens games this coming season, because I think they're going to be a really fun team. And I'll talk to everyone again very soon with the next one. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night, and see you guys next time.